Oh, hi there. So, how expensive is living in Accra? Let's say if you are a new immigrant to the city, and cities in general are very expensive to live in compared to the countryside, okay, or rural areas. So, how expensive is living in Accra? If you ask most people, they will tell you that Accra is a very expensive city to live in, but I think that that is relative. It depends on your tastes and preferences, and of course on your pocket as well. So, how is the situation in Accra? Well, like I said, most people say that Accra is a very expensive city to live in, probably one of the most expensive cities in West Africa. But it depends. Actually, it is relative because in Accra you have all income levels. You have people that are really insanely rich, and then you have people that are surviving or have survived in the city for generations who are not, for example. And so, how do they do it? Okay, so let's begin. I'm going to show you places in Accra that are, or I'm going to talk about places in Accra that are relatively cheap to find rent, easy to find decent accommodation for cheap, and then I'm going to talk about other places, more upscale areas of the city that are for the insanely rich. Alright, so when it comes to the people, the residents of Accra, let me say Ghana in general, it's well known that Ghanaians are very friendly people. They are calm, and they are very welcoming. So I'm going to give it a very high score on the people. So there's no problem. The security situation in Accra is very safe. It's very good on the whole, and there is no problem there. When it comes to jobs, let me tell you that, like I've said before, if you want to resettle in Accra and you don't have a job, or you're an immigrant, for example, if you are a new immigrant to the city, it's best that you become self-employed, because it is estimated that most people in Ghana, no, in Accra, are self-employed. It's only about 20% of the population of Accra, the working population of Accra, that you can find in formal jobs. So 80% of residents in Accra are self-employed. Many of them in the informal sector, selling, buying and selling, having how you're going to earn your living and become self-employed. And I'm telling you that most of these people that are self-employed earn better than many people in formal employment. Okay, so that's a good way to earn a living. If you have plans, if you have business ideas, I think that with the population of Accra exceeding about 3 million or so, it's a good place to try out your business ideas. So that's for jobs. You need to be self-employed if you intend to settle in Accra, from any part of the country or from outside of the country. Like I've said, the people in Ghana are very welcoming, so there's no problem there. And then, when it comes to food, there's an availability of all kinds of, I'm not going to talk much about that. What I want to talk about is shelter. How do you find accommodation in Accra if you want to settle permanently in the city? Well, you need to rent, and deciding which part of the city you want to live in is the big factor that determines how much you're going to spend on rent. So we have upscale places in Accra, like everywhere else, that you're going to spend a lot of money. So if you can afford it, you can live in places like the airport residential area or in the airport city. That's a popular place for people that have cash, to spend, and because rents over there are very expensive. Okay, so yeah, airport city. That's a good residential area if you're willing to spend a lot of money to rent. I'm going to give you some of the prices of those areas in a bit. East Legon is another popular area. Spintex is another. Osu is another place that, many of the residential facilities that you can find there are okay. They're decent. They're not extraordinary, but they're a lot expensive. They're very expensive because people like to be there. The cantonments, Laboni is another place that people. There are other options. There are other places that you can rent for cheaper, you know, and you can find really great facilities, great decent flats, you know, in these other areas that are a bit of the outskirts of the city. Okay, so all these other areas that I've talked about, that are very, you can have another place like Kisiman and other places. Tesano is another area that's quite in the, it's not on the outskirts, it's right in the middle of the city, but it's decent. But it's a lot more difficult to find accommodation in some of these places. Now, you can go online to find apartments for rent, okay? That's the easiest. You can go online. Those tend to be quite expensive. I don't know why. When you go online, you find that rents there are expensive, but you can also, there's an alternative. You can also find local rent agents that are listed, and you can call them up to find out their offers for rent. So these are two ways that you can find accommodation in Accra. You go online, you choose the area of the city that you want, you choose what you can afford, you see pictures of the listings, and you decide. We have furnished apartments, and then also we have apartments that are not furnished, and so you make your choice depending on your spending power. Most of the areas in Accra have decent facilities, and they are close enough to amenities like hospitals, schools. So if you're moving in with your family, there isn't much to worry about. So you just go online, you pick and choose, you make your choice depending on your taste and your spending power. Okay, so I'm just saying that some of these areas that you can look out for that are not too expensive, like I said, places like Taifa, Tantra Hills, Kisiman, you know, these are all places in Accra. Dansoman, these are all places in Accra that you can look out for, where you can find decent accommodation. Okay, if you prefer the upscale areas, then you can think about the airport city or the airport residential areas. You can think about places like Spintex. You can think about Osu and so on, cantonments, Laboni. So living in Accra is not too expensive if you know what to do. Okay, the cost of living in Accra or in Ghana, it's low, so you can afford more with little money. If you earn US dollars, for example, or euros or pounds, any of these currencies, you can afford a better life in Ghana than you can afford in your country. Okay, so if you are a remote worker, that's a great advantage for you to live here. You find a decent place to live here, and you will really like it here. There are many expatriates that live here, and that's what they do. Okay, and if you're a Ghanaian that wants to relocate here, you're gonna live a better life here if you have business and getting you some income from outside of the country. I want to say that when people say that it is hard to live in the city of Accra or it is too expensive, well, there is truth in that, but that's not the whole truth. That is just one side of the story, because you know, you can't be living in the same place, in the same area with somebody maybe just divided by a neighbor, you know, separated by 4 inches of concrete, but they might be living very different lives. Okay, so what I'm saying is, don't buy into the general perception that people might have that it is very expensive to live here. It all depends on your earning power, of course, but there are ways to get things done that can improve whatever situation you're in, such that you'll find that you it's not that expensive to be here. So don't buy into the popular perception. Just create your own reality. Just plan for it. Nothing happens when you have not planned for it. Just have a plan and work at it. Be persistent. Okay, like I said. Okay, so that's how it is in Accra. And thank you for being here. And I hope to bring you better content in my next video.